Chapter 10. Michael took a deep breath and exhaled loudly. Carefully he rolled up the scroll. Then, standing, he fished the canvas pouch from his blue jean pocket. Michael traced the embroidery of crossed swords on the flap. The symbol of a fighting man, he thought. I am not a quitter. I am a fighting man. Suddenly Michael smiled. I will persist without expectation, he said aloud. Quickly he carefully added the scroll to the other pages of knowledge in his pouch. Thank you, he murmured, as he put the pouch back in his pocket. He was overwhelmed by thoughts of the people he had met. Then Michael stopped. Remembering the larger picture, he closed his eyes, bowed his head, and sang the same words again. Thank you. Opening his eyes, Michael found himself in a large parking lot. He almost laughed out loud at his lack of surprise. He didn't know where he was, but he realized that he wasn't afraid or even unsure of himself. He wondered if he'd ever be shocked by anything again. It was nighttime, but the lights of the parking lot helped him to weave his way through the cars. He seemed to be drawn to a building at the other end of the lot, and he began making his way toward the entrance. As he walked, he looked up immediately and immediately recognized the skyline. His heart skipped a beat. The Reunion Tower, the Magnolia Building, the National Bank, all told Michael he was home. Staring up at the skyscrapers, Michael almost fell over the car in front of him. Whoa! He let out a slow breath as he examined the fine piece of machinery. The Jaguar emblem on the hood was unmistakable, but the rest of the car was unlike any Jaguar he'd ever seen. As he looked down the row of cars, he realized that none of them was like any cars he had ever seen. I'm in the future, he said to himself, and began walking even faster toward the building that seemed to call his name. As he got closer, he was able to make out the words across the arch of the entrance. Auditorium for Literary Sciences. Oh, so I will make it to college, huh? He thought, smiling to himself. Slowly, he walked toward the entrance and approached the woman at the booth. Excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am? She seemed to look right through him. I guess I can't be seen in the future either, Michael thought. As he made his way through the front door, an usher stopped him in his tracks. Oh, good evening, Mr. Holder. We weren't aware that you'd be coming tonight. Mr. Holder? Nice school. Such respect for their students. Such personal treatment. Michael was surprised by the usher's behavior, but this was obviously a man put here to help him see his future. Right this way, sir. The man led Michael to a long corridor where he stopped at the elevator door and motioned for Michael to step inside. The usher pulled out a key and inserted it into the keyhole beside the star. When the elevator chimed and the doors opened, the usher stood at the door, making the way for Michael to pass. Thank you, Michael said, and the usher stepped back onto the elevator with a slight bow. Nice guy, Michael said to himself as the elevator doors closed. Looking around, he found himself in a modern half-circle hallway with large windows overlooking an auditorium. Michael had a bird's-eye view of the speaker in the crowd in front of him. Man, that place is packed, he thought as he looked out over the group. Michael walked past the door, down the hallway, and stopped dead in front of a brass door plate with Michael Holder engraved in large letters. Okay, coincidence, he asked himself. He tried to turn the doorknob, but it was locked. Too weird, he thought, and continued walking. At the end of the hallway was a door marked stairs. He opened the door and walked down the flight of stairs. When he reached the bottom, he opened another door and found himself behind rows and rows of people. This door was obviously an entrance into the auditorium he had seen from the hallway windows above. A young man was speaking at the front. I was on the bench in front of the literary building with tears running down my face. I didn't know what to do or where to turn. Then, Mr. Holder, Michael just walked up and sat down beside me. He shared the first decision with me, handed me a copy of the book, and helped me straighten things out. I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for that man. The crowd cheered. Michael had to sit down. Could they be talking about me? What could I have done to make him cry like that in front of his friends? He looked up at the sea of people sitting in the audience and noticed that many of them were holding the same book. Then he saw it. At first he thought it was a picture of his father on the book jacket. No, it wasn't his father. Definitely not. He leaned over and peered closer at the book and the teenage girl's hand in front of him. He stifled a gasp. There, on the back of the book, Michael caught a glimpse of himself. Well, himself with a little less hair, staring back at him. Instantly, Michael knew what he had to do. He turned around, grabbed the doorknob, and sprang through the door. He ran and ran, all the way down the stairs until he reached the bottom level. He burst out the door, looked left, and ran toward the exit sign. The same usher that had carried him up the elevator shouted, Sir, is there something wrong? No, not at all. Everything is wonderful. Crystal clear, Michael yelled, running toward the door. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The usher stepped aside as Michael dashed through the doors. "Thank you," Michael yelled, without turning back. Michael Holder ran. He ran with a purpose. He ran with a vision. He ran until he could not run any longer. He stopped, breathless, and rested by a tree in the parking lot. Collapsing to his knees and then leaning back to a sitting position, Michael wondered how to get home. He rested his head against the tree, suddenly overwhelmed by exhaustion. His eyes became heavier and heavier. He tried to fight it. He had to tell his mom, had to see his dad, had to start now. But the darkness enveloped him, and Michael Holder drifted to sleep.